Hey, we have Map Men.
This episode of Map Men is brought to you by Stereo.
Peru next to Australia,
Mozambique joined to India.
Malaysia in Antarctica.
Today we'll be asking, where will the countries be in 250 million years?
Welcome to Map Men.
We're the men.
And here's the map. Map Men, Map Men.
The examples they just gave made me think of some sort of reverse Pangea, if that's even possible. But I'm ready for the high levels of speculation this one's going to take.
When Mark and I hang out together, one of the things we often discuss...
We never hang out, this is a purely business relationship.
One of the things we would discuss is how disappointingly few double landlocked countries there are. Countries that are not only landlocked, but surrounded by landlocked countries.
There's Uzbekistan, there's Liechtenstein, and that's it.
This is because the world's major landmasses are nicely spread out across the world's oceans, and the furthest you can ever get from a coastline is just 1,600 miles, here in the un-Chinese-sounding Gurban-Tungut Desert in China.
I didn't realize they spelled using umlauts in pinyin. But hold on, I want to go to what they flashed on the screen just there, if I can catch it. Got it. It says, well, it's a combination of that and the fact that having access to the sea is really important for a country to thrive and not be conquered by its neighbors. So any territory that finds itself double landlocked probably won't last as an independent country for long. Anyway, don't worry about that. The point still stands about the way the world's landmass is spread out. Okay. Probably didn't have to pause on that one.
And the furthest you can ever get from a coastline is just 1,600 miles, here in the un-Chinese-sounding Gurban-Tungut Desert in China.
But the continents haven't always been this well socially distanced.
180 million years ago, before the Second and First World Wars, the world looked like this.
Of course, the dinosaurs who were in charge at the time knew nothing of the theory of plate tectonics that were about to drive them apart.
It wasn't until the year 1915 collided with the Person Alfred Wegener that this new and groundbreaking idea took hold. Alfred was a super smart German meteorologist and geophysicist who was particularly good at puzzles. And looking at the world map, Alfred spotted a pattern. The shape of South America fits suspiciously snugly into West Africa. Could it be that the continents fitted together in a sort of puzzle of their own?
Many of the pieces of this puzzle were missing, having been eroded over millions of years. But Alfred realised this particular puzzle had legacy written all over it and set out to prove that their interlocking shapes weren't a coincidence.
He started by looking at rocks and realised that the rocks on the east coast of South America were, in many places, identical to the rocks on the west coast of Africa. An encouraging bit of evidence, but rocks alone weren't solid enough. So next, Alfred studied the fossil record.
That was a good one.
There was evidence of the exact same species of dinosaur living on separate continents, vast oceans apart. He found fossils of the Lystrosaurus in Africa, Antarctica, and here in India.
It was thunderingly unlikely
India.
that this unique Triassic animal could have evolved on 3 separate occasions. The more logical explanation was that these landmasses must once have been connected.
Thunderingly.
Using his new theory called continental drift, or Kontinentalverschiebung for long, Wegener mapped exactly how the continents fitted together millions of years ago.
He called this supercontinent Pangaea.
Greek for all the earth.
The theory went thus. North and South America were once attached to modern-day Africa, but they broke apart, forming the Atlantic Ocean.
And India was once attached to Antarctica, but it broke off and smashed into Asia with such force it made the Himalayan mountain range. Everyone else at the time roundly disagreed with him, as at the time people always do. He froze to death in Greenland before anyone took his stupid theory seriously.
That's a rough way to
But
go.
years later, while he was still dead, scientists happened upon something that proved Alfred was right. They discovered how continents were able to move, something Alfred had never bothered to work out. They found that convection currents in the mantle, or hot bit beneath the Earth's crust, slowly drive landmasses apart, then back together again, over cycles of about 500 million years.
This meant that Pangaea, far from being the original supercontinent, was actually the 11th to have formed in Earth's history.
So if the continents are still moving, which they are, the obvious and exciting question becomes,
When are the dinosaurs coming back?
where are the continents going next?
The best way of understanding where we might end up is to take a good look at which way the convection currents are currently flowing all under the world.
And where better to start than the most tectonically active place on the planet?
Oceania.
The Australia plate has, as you can see, moved northwards a massive 3.5 metres in the last 50 years. At 7 centimetres a year, this makes it the fastest moving tectonic plate on Earth.
This movement is actually causing chaos on GPS systems here in Australia. The data points still used today were fixed way back in 1994 when the country was a full 1.8 metres further southwest than it is now, which can be the difference between the right lane and the pavement.
Mark actually was in India, but that did not look like Australia to me. I don't know, any geoguessers good at license plates will have to let us know.
Effects of Australia's movement are already being felt across fiery Indonesia, where the subduction of the Australia plate under the Sunda plate has forged some of the most active volcanoes in the world, like Mount Merapi, which some of the best people in the world are known to have climbed. As Australia continues north, it's expected to make a handbrake turn to the left as it gobbles up Papua New Guinea before absolutely smashing into China. So Beijing and Shanghai may find themselves 8,000 metres up on top of a new mountain range as big as the Himalayas.
Meanwhile, in the Western Hemisphere, the Nubian and Somali plates will split apart along the East African Rift Valley, a process which has already begun, as demonstrated by this massive crack which appeared in Kenya in 2018. Over the next few million years, we can expect a new sea to appear here. The big bit of Africa will continue to head north towards Europe, so get ready for the Alps to get bigger and the Mediterranean to disappear.
Somewhere between 1 and 200 million years from now, and yes, that really is the kind of margin for error we're dealing with, Antarctica will slowly make its way to join the big collision party alongside Australia and Southeast Asia.
Those eyebrows are insane.
Leaving only the Americas, which are travelling in a westerly direction, widening the Atlantic and shrinking the Pacific into non-existence. You can see North America here, nicely spooning Australia, with South America cozying up to now tropical Antarctica, finishing off our big continental group hug.
Aw, isn't that nice? Scientists call this future supercontinent Novo Pangaea.
Latin and Greek for New Order Earth.
Imagine that, one happy, connected island with no oceans to divide us. But how sure can we be that this is exactly how it's going to pan out?
Positively unsure. Even with all the data and powerful computer modelling in the world, there's a decent chance the experts have got it wrong.
Novo Pangaea is merely what would happen if the convection currents in the mantle carry on exactly as they are and don't change. But some really radical scientists have come up with some different models for how the world could look.
First there's Aurica, where Eurasia splits in half and both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans close up.
Then there's Pangaea Ultima, the name which sounds most like a terrible Bond film, where Britain gets closer to America.
And finally there's Amasia, where all the continents congregate around the North Pole, except Antarctica, who, no matter what the model is always the laziest continent. Watching the world's land masses slowly cycle around the globe as millions of years tick by is a nice reminder of our own utterly insignificant place within the universe.
Which is why we recommend sharing this video
existential.
with any self-important friends you may have as a way of reminding them how crushingly unimportant they really are.
Of course, wondering where countries will be in 250 million years assumes countries and even humans will last that long.
Right now, it seems the chances of us surviving more than a few meters of continental drift are incredibly unlikely, as we grapple with overpopulation, climate change, pandemics, wars, pollution and mass extinction.
But if we do somehow survive and find ourselves living side by side on a supercontinent packed with double landlocked countries, we're at least going to have to figure out how to
That
be
would be
nicer
so
to one another
weird.
and extend the olive branch of human friendship.
So, fancy a pint?
I'm not really thirsty.
That one was packed. And they were saying so much that I didn't want to pause it as often. But I agreed with the conclusion, the existential bit, and that we just don't know. And the fact that Novo Pangaea is so contingent on our current day understanding of the world. Who's to say what's going to happen in 250 million years? None of us are going to be alive to confirm or deny anything. But I'll link the Jay Foreman channel in the description along with this specific video. Personally, I think 250 million years from now, Earth is not going to exist as we know it. At least not for Homo sapiens. Like, will we die out? Will we evolve? Will something replace us? Are we currently helping build what's going to eventually replace us? I don't know. Questions to ask yourself before bed, like I do. Leave your opinion down below. In the more immediate future, I was looking at this article that was explaining, I don't remember if they called her Mindy or Sandy, but researchers made an AI model of the physical characteristics that humans might evolve in the next 1,000 years or so, and it's odd and kind of alarming. She has a bent elbow from all of the technology she's using, and then the hand is in this distorted position from holding a smartphone so frequently. And then the brain gets smaller because you have to use it less, but the skull is bigger for whatever reason. I don't remember why that was. And she's hunchbacked. It's weird. And that's also contingent on smartphones being the same shape and size as they are now in the next however long it takes for us to evolve those characteristics, right? Who's to say we don't just start using goggles instead of phones, or people start accepting microchips in the brain and then start speaking brain to brain, or whatever else they try to sell us. I'm gonna give a big nope on both of those from me. You'll never catch me consenting to putting a microchip in my brain. Cut to me 10 years from now walking around with goggles. Jeez, I hope not. Anyway, leave your thoughts on this video. For the book recommendation, I don't think I've ever recommended a book I haven't finished, but this one continues on with that theme of classic literature that subscribers have recommended to me that I'm trying to get through. And it's Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. It's about this guy, he's going through it. He was shipwrecked on an island. It ends up being an island of a mad scientist who's crossing humans and animals to make these hybrids, and then the story goes from there. H.G. Wells also wrote War of the Worlds and The Invisible Man, so if you liked either of those, this could be a book for you. I'll start with a genre I've yet to recommend on the channel, Northern Soul, and this is Tony Clark's Landslide. I think it's from the 60s or 70s, but I first heard it on the soundtrack of the US version of the show Skins. The UK version is better. If you know, you know. Cook, Effie, Freddie. Best season. I never asked for a remake of a show, but I would like them to continue Skins. Anyway, another artist today is from the UK. He's called Ross from Friends. And the song is called Talk to Me, You'll Understand. He makes melancholic house music, some with lyrics, some without. This particular song does have sampled lyrics. So tell me if you like it. If you have a music recommendation for me, I'll look it up. And that's really it. So I'll catch you next time.